Hi, my name is Isis. I am the CEO and founder of Empower Mode, and this is a channel where I want you to be the best version of yourself on your self discovery journey. So, I am so happy to have you here. Today, I want to talk about the power of forgiveness, and I really want to talk about this topic because I feel like I have been around so many people, and I've also watched so many videos on social media where people have mentioned that you should not forgive other people. And I don't necessarily agree with that because I do feel like forgiveness is a powerful thing and it's something that everyone should learn how to do. I would say, speaking from my own experiences, going down the path of forgiveness has always been something very hard for me to do. I've always been reluctant to actually be that kind of person to forgive others. And maybe that's not necessarily the, Christ-like way of being in today's society, but something I've learned over time, especially as I've aged and gone through several life experiences, is understanding that forgiveness is not necessarily for the other person, it's truly for yourself. And I feel like I want to be vulnerable when talking with y'all about it because I sincerely have been through so much in my life. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I've had trouble overcoming, especially when it comes to forgiving myself because I've been so hard on myself. And then if you can relate to that out there, I just don't want you to be also hard on yourself because we already have so much judgment on from society on each of us, and your biggest critic is typically yourself. And so I just feel like you're just carrying a big heavy burden on yourself that you don't need to do. It's not necessary for you to carry all that pain, all that trauma. If y'all watched my last video where I talked about overcoming your childhood trauma and healing as a result of that, the first phase for me of that process was forgiving myself, because going through all of my childhood trauma was really a lot to do that, especially when I started going to therapy and just really understanding that some of those things were not my fault. So on the flip side, I did have to take some accountability. Maybe some of my actions when I was younger did lead up to some things that have happened to me as an adult. Like, I'm talking about like when I was a teenager and stuff like that. But even before I was a teenager, when I truly was innocent and didn't know better, that stuff was not necessarily my fault. So in my mind, though, before I started going to therapy, I did not think that. I used to think all these different things were my fault. Like when I was being yelled at or when I was being bullied at school, I would think that I did something to make those people do something to me. So what I'm learning is I have to give myself some grace and put myself in reality and not come up with all these different concepts in my head of, going back to like people pleasing. That's what I've been historically doing. So something I'm learning along this process is forgiving myself, because once I do that, it releases so much weight off of my chest. I literally felt a sense of relief when, like, every time I forgive myself for certain things in my life. I would say that was like the first step for me of forgiveness. And then the second step is once you forgive yourself and you go through that healing phase, then you're able to forgive the other person that has wronged you or done something to you that was devastating. Now, I'm not going to say that process is easy, but honestly, I feel like it's worth going through the process because you come out stronger on the flip side of it. And you just feel unstoppable and you just feel so great about yourself. And spiritually, when you don't forgive yourself or someone else, you're in a lower level energy. It's low vibrational to be that way. And I really believe in order for you to get to a higher version of yourself, you do need to release all that pain. You do. You must do it. And you don't necessarily have to, I want to make sure I phrase this correctly to y'all because I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. I feel like yes, you do, should forgive someone, but I feel like going forward, you don't necessarily need to accept them in your life, okay? So when I mean this, like I had a falling out with the friendship that happened to me. I think I was like 20 or 21 at the time. And it took me literally so long to go through that process because when I fell out with them, I had so much hurt and trauma on my chest. And I feel like that held me down for so long. I even had bad thoughts about myself around that time period when we broke apart and wasn't friends anymore. I remember looking back though, it took me a couple years to heal from that because it was so traumatizing to me. And I realized those people were not meant to be in my life. They were just a season, not a reason to be in my life. And so you can do that. You can learn to forgive them. Like I learned that I needed to. And it's helped me so much because I was literally carrying that baggage and I was closing myself off to friendships I have now in the future. That's how bad that it traumatized me. When I let that trauma go, I was able to establish friendships now that are great. I have relationships with people in my life that I am happy for them to be around me. And if I feel like those feelings are coming back up, then that's how you know when your past traumas are not resolved. So make sure, like, if you are truly wanting to forgive someone or even just forgive yourself, make sure that, those feelings are truly gone. Because I know sometimes they may want to fester back up, and that's really your ego that's trying to get in the way. Something I've learned for me that's helped is if you write out like your thoughts on paper and say like I forgive myself and forgive others and why and what happened, etc. If you want to do that, you can literally rip it up and burn it and release it. Or you can write it and release it into the water, something, or release it into the trash, like after you rip it up. If you do something like that, I feel like it's also helpful because you can see yourself doing the release. I know for me, I'm a very visual person, so I'll get like a download or I'll see it in my mind of me writing something down on a wall or writing on a paper, and then I can see like a light of energy being focused on my writing, and then it's being burned away visually. So for me, I'm more of that type of person, but that's not something that you have to do. That's just something I do. You know that you're ready to forgive whenever you understood the lesson that happened to you, and you know that that lesson is going to help you move forward in life so you don't make the same mistake again. Now, I'm only saying this because if you don't learn the lesson that you went through with that person hurting you, then honestly, the same pattern is going to happen again and again and again until you come to the conclusion on what you took from that relationship with that person, or like what lesson you learned from that person being in your life. And like I was saying before, like some people truly come into your life for a season. Some people come for a reason, and the people that leave your life, it's definitely a season, but you have to take something from that relationship that you can carry on into the future that you won't ever make again. Now, you could take good things, but you can also remember the bad things to not carry forward in future relationships with other people, because then you're going to continue to attract the same type of person, the same type of problem until you learn the lesson. So I hope this video resonated with you today. I just want to get on here and talk about forgiveness because I just feel like it's truly a powerful thing to do, and I feel like a lot of people don't want to forgive because they truly don't want to move on and they want to be victims and suffer, and just go through the same traumatic experiences over and over. Like, it, to me, that just does not make sense. If you're out here and you're doing this, just let it go. Please just let it go. I know it's hard, but at the end of the day, your soul will thank you for it later on down the line. So these are just my thoughts. Feel free to talk about what you have done to forgive someone in the comments, or even if you're going through your own forgiveness journey, it would be great for us to hear from you. I would love to see your thoughts. So with all that being said, I hope you all have a great day. Don't forget to check out empowermode.com, where I have some resources to help you on your journey to self-discovery. So that includes forgiveness as part of that process, because you can write out your thoughts and write your own story. So those are the resources I have, and I hope that you empower yourself and inspire others.